What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about multiple different things going on in combat sports right now. First off, this weekend's big heavyweight PFL fight, Francis Ngannou versus Renan Ferreira. We're going to talk about that. I have a rant about UFC 310 that I'd like to go over with you guys because I got some thoughts about that. Also, Bivol versus Beterbiev, that fight just took place over the weekend, and we're going to discuss that and my thoughts on that fight. And we have UFC Fight Night Hernandez versus Pereira this weekend, as well as we're going to take a look at the upcoming Misfits 19. We're going to take a preview of that card as well. Anyways, guys, let's get into the video. Okay, so starting off with Ngannou versus Ferreira. Now, I'll tell you what, outside the UFC, there is not that many big-name heavyweights or any good heavyweights, really, that really jump out to you as, oh, I want Francis to fight this guy, or I want him to fight this guy. So, Renan Ferreira is actually not a bad pick, in my opinion, for Francis' next opponent because he's big, he's tall, he's Brazilian, and he's pretty athletic, too. That being said, though, Ngannou is favored at a minus 310, which is about a 75% chance to win this fight, according to the betting odds. But here's the thing. If we take a look at some statistics here, Ngannou did just get KO'd in his last fight. Yes, it was against Anthony Joshua, but we'll see if that lingers or leaves any effect. Also, he hasn't fought in MMA since January of 2022. His last fight out was against Cyril Gane, UFC 270. I mean, he did take, like I said, the two boxing fights since then. But I'm just saying that it has been a while since Francis has been in the cage, especially considering Renan Ferreira has 4 consecutive KO wins since June of 2023. And he's been pretty active as of lately. And Ngannou is also older. He's 38 compared to Ferreira, who is 34. Now, my prediction for this fight, I think Francis is going to win because he also has the threat of the takedown. He's a lot more powerful, but it is a dangerous fight because Ferreira, like I said, big, tall, athletic, and powerful too. He's knocked a lot of guys out, like I said, his past 4 opponents. And yes, even though Francis has been inactive, hasn't fought in MMA in over 2 years, he has been working still. It's not like he's been sitting on the couch the entire time. He has been training. He has been taking boxing fights against some of the best boxers in the world. So I think him going back into MMA is like riding a bike, and it's going to click right away for him. Okay, so now for our next topic, UFC 310. Now, taking a look at the card, top to bottom, it's pretty good. Bilal Muhammad defending the belt against Shavkat Rakhmonov. That's an interesting fight, but my main issue with the card is the co-main event. You have Alexandre Pantoja, the flyweight champ, taking on Kai Asakura. Now, I don't have an issue with Kai Asakura. I think he could be a great fighter one day, but here's the thing. The UFC championship is supposed to hold a sort of value. That's why they place these fights at the top of the card. You could have a badass fight, like let's say you have a Colby Covington versus Ian Gary, which is being targeted, but you wouldn't put that above your world title fight because the world title fight is supposed to hold value. That's why they're allowed to put these WMMA title fights on pay-per-views. Like you look at the last card. For example, UFC 307, Jose Aldo versus Mario Batista was a lot more of a hyped-up fight than Juliana Pena versus Raquel Pennington. Doesn't matter. They're going to put the title fight above the other fights because the title is supposed to hold value. And considering you just cut an undefeated prospect who was in the top 10 in your division, Muhammad Mokaev, and you have Kai Kara-France, who just KO'd Steve Erceg, it is kind of bullshit that you're giving a world title fight to a guy who's never even fought in your organization. At least with Kayla Harrison or Michael Chandler, all of these guys, they get Dana White privilege, but this is just next level, just pandering. I'm actually kind of disgusted that you can just hand somebody a world title fight without them even earning it in the UFC. That's not very good. I'm not happy about that. Okay, so our next topic is Bivol versus Beterbiev, the big boxing fight that just happened over this past weekend for the undisputed 175-pound world title in boxing, unifying the belts. I'll tell you what, that is one good thing that we get with these Riyadh season cards is the best versus the best. And we really saw that over this past weekend. Now, going into it, most people thought if it's going to the scorecards, it'd be Bivol winning, or if it was a TKO finish, Beterbiev would probably be the one delivering that. Now, after a first watch, I did give the fight to Bivol. I had it 7-5 at 115, 113. But regardless, it was a very close fight. Actually, it was so close that I gave it a rewatch. And upon a rewatch, my opinions actually did change a little bit because I gave the first 3 rounds to Bivol, razor close. Rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, I gave to Beterbiev. 8 and 9, Bivol, and 10, 11, Beterbiev. And round 12 was a deciding round because here I have Beterbiev up 6-5. So if Bivol wins the 12th, that would make it a draw. If Beterbiev wins, that would make it a win for him. And I really think that 12th round was a toss-up round. And another thing that I failed to realize in such a razor-close fight is which fighter looked more dangerous, and I definitely thought that was Arthur Beterbiev. And I'm not exactly angry anymore that he got the decision. I was kind of pissed off when the fight first ended. And I'll tell you what, we definitely need a trilogy, possibly, but definitely a rematch because that was a great fight, and I really enjoyed it. All right, on to our next topic. UFC Fight Night going down this weekend. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Michel Pereira. Let me just say that is a badass fight right away. That is a great fight. We have Anthony Hernandez, who is a chain wrestler, submission guy. He just finished Roman Kopylov, which is a great win in my opinion. And then we have Michel Pereira, who ever since moving up to middleweight, he has just been running through guys, just absolutely finishing them, destroying them in the first round. So I'll tell you what, this is a high-paced fight, and I definitely don't see this one going the 5-round distance. If I'm going to tell you right now, in my opinion, I think that Anthony Hernandez is probably going to finish Michel Pereira. I'm going to go with a second-round submission, but I definitely could see Pereira possibly hurting or wobbling him maybe early in the first round, and then Hernandez weathering the storm, getting the finish. I think Hernandez is going to be a top middleweight contender one day. Also, on the card, we have Rob Font versus Kyler Phillips. And let me just say, those are some crazy odds on that fight. I would pick Kyler Phillips to win this fight, but they have him set at like a minus 345, which is absolutely crazy in my opinion. So it wouldn't hurt to throw a couple dollars on Rob Font because he is a tough guy and he's fought a lot of really tough fighters lately. Also, we have opening up the card, we have the fraud Rebellis de Spain versus Austin Lane. It's a rebound fight, I'm going to be honest, guys. They just want to get Rebellis de Spain back in the win column and restore some hype to the heavyweight division because, let's be honest, outside the top 15, it's all blobs and fat guys. So they want to get Rebellis de Spain back in there and back in the mix and potentially, fighting against some of these guys, but he's really got to work on his takedown defense. This fight's not going to be tested, though. Austin Lane, he's a tall, chinny heavyweight who's going to strike with him, and he's going to get knocked out. So that's my thoughts on that. All right, the last topic I'd like to touch on is boxing, Misfits boxing. It's not really any sort of high-level boxing at all, actually, but it is entertainment boxing, and they just announced a card, their 19th card, and I'll tell you what, this right here, it feels like a 2021-2022 crossover boxing card because there are some way better, what am I talking about? There is a lot better matchups that we have on this card compared to any other YouTube boxing card since last October, KSI versus Tommy Fury. That was the last truly hyped up crossover boxing card, but we have a good lineup of amateur fights on here with some big names and some competitive matchups. Gibb versus Slim. It's a fight that's been looked at for a while. Competitive fight. Salt Poppy, King Kenny, another matchup that we've been discussing for a while. It's an interesting one. Jay Swingler, Nick LMAO. All of these guys, are amateurs, obviously. None of these guys are, pros or any sort of high level, but these are interesting and these are competitive fights. Again, Jarvis, a guy who's been training for like 2-3 years at this point. Ben Williams is a strong, athletic guy, and of course, there's a lot of fans in the UK of the brothers JJ and Deji is going to be boxing on the card. Who will he be boxing? I have no idea, and it's yet to be announced. To be honest, they're just probably going to throw him in there against somebody he can beat, somebody he didn't really have to train too hard for, just so they can get him on the card to sell some tickets. If you're still here, I really appreciate you guys watching this whole video. I think I'm going to start trying to stay consistent and uploading a lot of different combat sports videos here coming up soon. So, like I said, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys soon. Make sure you stay tuned for more.